Okay, DJ, I need a helper at the end of the service. I want you to help me hand these out. Little small Rubik's Cubes, okay? Rubik's Cubes. If you'll start at the end of the service, I'll holler at you. If you'll start in the back, work your way forward, I'll work my way forward, okay? We may have enough for everybody, may not. Yes, sir.
Don't forget, at the bottom, it's one on the bullet, put up, so you can add it later.
Okay.
About 10 minutes, like security.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it wasn't you much.
Yeah, she had it. She didn't have it.
I didn't know.
She didn't tell me what all she had to bolt until she started giving me the West Walk. Thing was.
You should add it. All right there. Right, here's another hole. You have to put a nail in it. You place that.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm all situated here. I'm running behind talking, socializing, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Part of worship is fellowship, right? And if you don't talk to people in church, there's something wrong with you because it's where you need to. You need to sit, hang out and spend time with your brothers and sisters and loved ones in Christ, right? I got several announcements. We'll head to high points. Don't forget, Tuesday is the missions rally at First Baptist Stanley. Now what that is essentially, it's a free meal. Who here likes a free meal? Raise your hand if you like a free meal. Okay. Most people like a free meal. What it is it's a meal, a time of fellowship, and then afterwards is a time of worship. It's going to be First Baptist Stanley. We'll get together, we'll worship together, and they'll give reports on the mission efforts of the state convention around the state. Like the Baptist men and other missionary trips, things like that. You don't have to do anything in there, just sit there and just worship. And the most important thing is eat, right? No, worship then eat. But it's going to be Tuesday night, the van leaves at 5:50. We'll be going to First Baptist Stanley. But I need you to sign up because I need to confirm the numbers. I think we've got maybe 6 or 7 signed up now. We've got room for a few more. If you'd like to go, please sign up on the bulletin board. Also mentioned to you, there is an insert in the bulletin. It's got pancakes or it's got a church logo that says Shrove Tuesday. You know how the places like in New Orleans or Catholic areas, they have Fat Tuesday? The Protestant version is Shrove Tuesday. The Catholics, they have their revelry and wine and beignets and stuff like that. We Protestants have our pancakes. Not quite as glamorous, but they're still pretty darn good. So this is an opportunity to get together, to fellowship together, to worship, to invite people. That's why you have the inserts, invite people. It's going to be the 25th, it's a Tuesday night from 6 to 7. There's no charge, but I would ask if you would bring a non-perishable food item or monetary donations for Dallas High Shoals Ministry that day, okay? So hand this out to somebody you want to see come. Say, hey, I'd love to have you come with me, or I'll meet you there. Free food, okay? Well, speaking of food, last Sunday we had 77 people here, and we need to feed some people every Sunday, right? I can't remember that type of number, but it's good. But I mentioned to you that. Also mentioned to you the Sharp Checkers game is coming up. We need you to sign up to get a chance for that. Details are in the bulletin. And a big thank you for all those that helped out and donated and baked and even just showed up for the fundraiser last week for our kids. We raised $2,700 for our children. So big thank you, clap your hands. But thanks to Aubrey and Kathy for that. They worked hard on that, and all the others that helped out. There's plenty of help in the kitchen that need be thanking you as well. I'm sure if I named every name, I'd miss somebody. Come on in the house, take shoes off, make something else. Also mention to you something that's not in the screen announcements, but it is in the bulletin. This was added later as a reminder. We're having somebody from the sheriff's office come in this coming Thursday. It'll be Thursday night from 6:30 to 7:30. It's a security assessment. In light of all the different shootings around our country and threats around our community, and we're having the sheriff's department come in, let's say, do a security assessment, what we can do better as a church to keep everybody safe. So we're asking the deacons and counters, which some of that overlaps, if y'all will be here if you're able to, Thursday night from 6:30 to 7:30, and we'll go over with that deputy about how to make our church safer and more secure. I hate to do that, but like I say, this day and age, you never can be too careful. Especially us being in town, being on the main road, some just random person may stop by one of these days and have ill intent. It's a scary world we live in today. Do we have any other announcements? Anything I'm forgetting? I'm surely forgetting something. I did forget something. I forgot to welcome y'all. Welcome to the Lord's house today. Right? The heat works. We got power on. We got a fancy, gussied up choir. Most importantly, the Lord's here with us. Let's worship and adore Him. Let's shut all the cares of this world away. Let's focus on Him. Make it His day today. Okay? As we sing.
We're going to sing Holy is the Lord. The words are in your pamphlet and they'll also be up on the screen. Please all rise.
For the joy of the Lord is our strength. We bow down and worship Him now. How great, how awesome is He. And together we sing. Everyone sing. Holy is the Lord.
I do mention to you, we do have a few highlighted prayer requests on our bulletin. Pray for Tony, he's having a test tomorrow. So pray for him, and Jean, and the family. And Barry gave me an update on Rena Bird. She is hanging in there. She's off life support, and apparently they haven't expected to live this long. But she's still with us. So pray for her and her husband and the rest of the family and friends. Also mentioned sympathy to Tracy Lowell. He passed away this past week and they had a ceremony for him yesterday, a full member of this church. Any other prayer concerns that y'all would like to voice today? Be in prayer for our community, be in prayer for our country.
Preacher,
Yes, sir.
George Estes is my neighbor. His daughter is called hospice in. They expect her not to survive for 2 or 3 more days. Put George on the list. Her name is Angela Sid.
Okay. Any other prayer concerns?
Yes, I've got one. Good friend of ours, his name Carol Dow. She's had some problems with her blockage and her thing. They did procedure on her leg, but now we're having to go up in the other yard. Check that out. Today.
Okay. Carol Dow.
Yes,
Any other prayer concerns?
Yes. My daughter Tony Suttles having trouble with the pains in her legs. She stays in pain all the time.
Any other prayer concerns? Yes, ma'am.
A friend of mine, Joshua Street, his father just passed away a few months today.
Went to college with Josh Stroop, well, Strap. I was always told, you're a Stroop or a Strap, depending on how much money you have. So, any other prayer concerns? There's a lot going on, isn't there? And that's not counting all the everyday stresses and colds and bugs going around and everything else that we just need an extra picking up from the Lord for, right? A lot of things going on. We need Him. I don't know how in the world people don't realize they need Him. People think they can get along by themselves. I can do it on my own. We live in a very selfish, self-centered society, don't we? But we who know Him, who worship Him, the people of faith, we know that we need Him. We can't do it without Him. So let's pray to Him today. Heavenly Father, we lift up all these prayer concerns, the ones we've mentioned today, Lord, all the ones that we haven't mentioned, the ones that burden our heart. God, we need You. We really need You. Oh, we need You, as the song says, Lord. We place our cares at Your feet, Lord. We place our concerns there, knowing that while it may in some ways feel comfortable to us to stress, the stress does us no good. That You control this world, Lord, and that Your will is what's best. And You work in mighty and mighty ways that we can't understand. That Your miracles, Lord, can defy nature, can defy medicine. Lord, You wrote the rules, and You can break the rules, and we thank You for that. Lord, even when life makes choices and turns that we don't like, that aren't ideal, You're with us all the way, Lord, carrying us. Thank You so much, O Lord. And we pray. Amen.
Can we please all rise for number 333, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms? We're going to sing the first 2 verses.
Why the blessedness, why the peace divine,
gratitude, Lord, that we have someone stronger than we. In trust and faith and hope, Lord, we just have confidence you're on our side. Thank you, Father, for that ability that we can approach your throne of grace anytime, anywhere. Sure hope sure later. We're now called to return the portion that you've given us, Lord. All that we have is yours. Thank you, Lord, for the blessings of life, for your nearness, your goodness, and your blessing. For your Jesus' name. Amen.
by day, Batman by night. I feel your shirt there, Bruce. Oh, mercy me. Excuse me. So, I've been reading a book. I went to a lecture at Illinois University 3 weeks ago. A guy named Richard Beck, he teaches at Abilene Christian University, has written a book recently, and the title of the book is Trains, Jesus, and Murder, the Gospel According to Johnny Cash. I love Johnny Cash's music, but I think that the Trains, Jesus, and Murder kind of summarizes Johnny Cash's music, doesn't it? Right? The man who sang I Shot a Man in Reno Just to Watch Him Die also sang about Jesus. In My Mother's Hymn Book is one of his famous albums of hymns. But I found this quote, this page in Dr. Beck's work, where he mentions the passage we're going to look at today, and he talks about walking the line. Johnny Cash, in some ways, the Sun Records wouldn't let him release a Christian song. They wanted, the Elvis style, hillbilly, rockabilly type music. They didn't want a gospel song quite yet. But Johnny Cash said that his song, Walk the Line, had both a gospel message and a practical message. A message to his wife that he would try to behave, and a message to God that he would try to walk the line. Here's a quote here. This is from Dr. Beck's work. At the end of his life, Moses famously describes a choice facing God's people. Today I set before you life and death. Deuteronomy 30:19. If we're faithful to God, if we walk the line, blessings will abound to us. But if we fail to walk the line, there'll be hell to pay. Like Johnny Cash, Israel failed to walk the line, so they faced consequences. And as specified in the Sinai covenant, the consequence was exile. The story at this point seems to come to its sad, predictable conclusion. We made a promise. We broke the promise. We get what we deserve. The end. In 1967, Johnny Cash found himself at a dead end. That's the year Johnny Cash about committed suicide because his marriage was falling apart, he was strung out on drugs, even though he claimed he would walk the line. So we all make choices in life. There's a choice on every corner. We choose to walk the line, or to not walk the line, so to speak. We choose to follow God, and follow His ways, we choose to follow the ways of the world, or the other gods in this passage in Deuteronomy we're going to look at today. But let me frame the story of Deuteronomy a little bit. It's one of my favorite books of the Old Testament. It is a swan song, if you will, of Moses. Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers, they start the story of the Exodus. They show some of the law that God has imparted to the people, the rules and regulations of how to live. But Deuteronomy is kind of capstone what's going to happen. It's the capstone of recounting what has happened and what's going to happen as they enter in the Promised Land. You see, it's framed as though Moses is speaking Deuteronomy or talking about Deuteronomy as he's standing on the mountain looking over on the Promised Land. They're getting ready to go in. It's a last charge to the people. This is what God has done in your life, in the life of your ancestors. What are you going to do today? So that's the passage we're going to look at today, where this choice of life and death has been given to the people. You see, the previous generation of the Exodus had that promise set before them, but they refused it. They broke the promise. They didn't walk the line. They didn't choose wisely. And destruction was a consequence. Death was a consequence. But the next generation, the second generation that did not know the Exodus, they must still choose life through obedience, love, and loyalty to God. So I'm going to lay the choice before you today. You've got to choose wisely. I've got a little clip. I'm definitely a modern age type person. I was raised on TV as my babysitter. One of my favorite movies is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I love Indiana Jones, the bullwhip and the hat and fedora. He's an archaeologist. But the story of the Last Crusade is Indiana Jones is trying to rescue the Holy Grail, or find the Holy Grail before the Nazis find it. He's a Nazi fighter, I should say, and against the forces of Hitler. And they come to the last scene. His dad has been shot. He's laying off somewhere, and he has to find this cup so that his dad can be healed and be brought back to life. And he's got these Nazis with him, and they're trying to find this cup of life, this Holy Grail. It's all mythology. It's all Hollywood. This is an interesting choice. I want to show you guys.
You must choose. But choose wisely. That's the true grail will bring you life. false grail will take it from you. I'm not a historian. I have no idea what it looks like. Which one is it?
Let me choose.
Thank you, Doctor.
That's Indiana Jones with a hat.
More beautiful than I ever imagined. This ceremony is a cup of the King of Kings. Eternal life. What happened to me? You chose poorly.
Not be made out of gold.
That's the cup of a carpenter. There's only one way to find out. You have chosen wisely.
Of course, there's a bit of a hiccup. I had to cut out part of this. There's a scene, the part of the guy starts melting down, and that's before the dust, and give you nightmares. Just give my kids nightmares. But but the scene is essentially that you have a choice in life, don't you? You can choose life, or you can choose death. You can choose what is of God, or the things that may look pretty and may tempt us, the ways of the world. So we have to choose life. And that's what Moses is doing for the children of Israel in this passage today. Choose life. See, I have set before you today life and good, death and evil. Again, his last will and testament. Moses is like, hey, this is it. You got to choose. You see, I have set before you. Now, a lot of times we see you in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, it's a collective you. It's a you for the whole group. You know, it's you plural. If the Old Testament were written in Southern, it would be y'all. Okay? But this is one of those instances where this ain't a y'all or a you one. This is a you. So Moses, in some ways, is speaking to the group, but he's speaking to individuals. You, individually, must choose. We must choose. Life and good, death and evil. Fork in the road in life, we must choose. But it's not just we have a choice we can put off. It's a choice that must be made soon. Today, this language is here. In fact, literally in Hebrew it's this day or today is one way to translate that. In this passage, that phrase today or this day occurs 4 times. In fact, that construction in the Hebrew occurs 55 times in Deuteronomy and the former prophets, which would be Samuel, Kings, Joshua, Judges. That phrase occurs so often, emphasizing the immediacy of the decision, the immediacy of the action. You see, I get a bit antsy sometimes in my household, and I'm going to watch them. I'm going to get in trouble for this. I'm going to go to the doghouse for this, but A lot of times, if we go out to eat or go do something, I'll let the boss lady, my wife, choose what we're going to do. And I'm the type of person I like to make quick decisions. Let's get it done. Let's go. Let's be decisive. I love my wife, and we're like yin and yang sometimes. We're opposites, and we work, just sometimes slowly. She makes decisions not quite on the spur of the moment, or not quite as decisively as I do. We're different. The witness here confirming this. But see, this is one of those decisions that we can't put off until tomorrow, or we can't put off for another day. We must choose this day, this moment, who we're going to serve. We must choose life and good, choose God, or choose death and evil, the ways of the world, or the ways of the gods. This is emphasis on the immediacy. If I'm much of a fire and brimstone preacher, I would give you the whole hellfire and brimstone sermon. You're going to hell today. If you die, you need to get up here to the altar now. I'm giving you the choice. That's what Moses does to the people. That's what God does. I'm doing it to you. You must choose today life or death. Choose God or this world. You see, choice A is the way of life. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I commanded you today by loving the Lord your God, by walking in His ways, keeping His commandments and His statutes and His rules. Let's pause there for a second. So the conditions of choice A are, first off, it is commanded by God. God has spoken this as the superior, as the boss, as the Lord, as Almighty God. He has spoken these rules. Now, Moses is referring back to what's already come in the book of Deuteronomy. There's a bunch of different law codes and instructions and part of the covenant, essentially. This whole agreement between God and His people. If you do this, if you follow me, I'll be your God, you'll be my people type thing. It's been commanded by God. And what is that commitment here? Commitment to loving God, commitment to walk in His ways, commitment to keep His commands and decrees and laws. Essentially, it boils down to loving God, listening to God, and being loyal to God. That's our choice today. Choice A is loving God, listening to God, and being loyal to God. Walking in His ways. Loving Him. That's the choice A. That's the life and the good. Loving God, which ain't very hard. Listening to God, not very hard. Loyalty to God, not very hard. In fact, back in verse 11, Moses said, "For this commandment I command you today is not too hard for you." It ain't hard. It's not like He's given us some sort of great task that we can never, Herculean feat that we never can accomplish. He's not asking you to run a marathon if you're somebody like me and love food way too much. He's asking you to love, to listen, to be loyal. That's choice. It's choice A that's set before you today. Now, one of the things we're trying to teach our children, and most of y'all have parents and grandparents, great-grandparents, you've gone through this thing. We have to teach your children that there are consequences for your actions. There's good and bad things that happen based off of what you do. Sadly, even some adults have forgotten that or never learned that, and they forget that there's consequences to your actions. So what are the consequences to choice A? Well, verse 16 follows, "That you shall live and multiply, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to take possession of it." So he's saying life and increase and blessing are the consequences of choice A. And we're coming off a few sermons back talking about Ecclesiastes, and life isn't always cut and dry, black and white. Life isn't always you're good and God blesses you, you're bad and God curses you. But this is God never promises a perfect life here, does He? For those who choose life, and choose God, and choose choice A, it's not puppy dog tails and roses and everything smooth, but He's promised you a better life. He's promised you that He'll watch over you, He'll take care of you, He will protect you in the midst of the storm. That's choice A, that's life. Increase His blessing. He'll be with you. Again, it's not always a smooth road, but at least it's the right road. You got a traveling companion with you, the Almighty God. Those are the consequences of choice A. Blessing. God with you. Now let's look at choice B, the way of death. I should have a little skull up there, crossbones or something. That would have been neat. Deuteronomy 30, 17 through 18 says, "But if your heart turns away, and you will not hear," that's not just audible hearing, that's listening, right? Put your listening ears on. I used to have a teacher say that. Put your listening ears on. Not just hear it, but digest it. Let it sink in. If you turn your hearts away and you will not hear, but are drawn away to worship other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall surely perish. You shall not live long in the land that you are going over the Jordan to enter and possess. So what are the conditions of choice B? Well, it's a choice you make. Your heart turning away from God. Now, they've been following God up until this point. Can you choose to turn away or to keep on following? Sadly, as I go through some of the list of names and everything, it's funny how been your pastor over a year and a half, closer to 2 years, and there's still names that people tell me, this person used to be a member of the church, and they left, or they stopped coming. It's amazing how I still find people that once part of this church who maybe have turned away, or they've stopped coming because they've stopped following God. They've chosen choice B and turned away from God. You see, I liken it a lot to one of the gospel stories. You see, the Gospels tell the story the disciples were in this boat. And there was a storm on the Sea of Galilee. They see Jesus walking on the water. And Peter gets out of the boat, he starts walking to him. Peter then, and he kind of gives you implied here that Peter, he starts realizing he's walking on water. And then he takes his eyes off Jesus. And he starts sinking. You know, the great hymn coming is inspired by that. Turn your eyes upon Jesus. Look full in his wonderful face. You see, this notion of turning away from God is choosing the opposite path from Him. Choosing choice B, the other fork in the road. It consists of not obeying, not following His commandments, not being loyal to Him. It consists of being seduced by the gods of the world. Think back to that clip I showed you from Indiana Jones. All those bright, shiny cups. All those beautiful, bejeweled cups. I mean, gold everywhere, jewels everywhere. A lot of different choices. And that's very much what this world has to throw at you. A lot of shiny choices that we can choose that look really good. They look perfect. It can be perfect to do. If I only followed, if I only did, if I only chose that way. And that's what the devil did when Jesus was tempted in the wilderness, didn't it? Took him up to high pinnacles. All these cities can be yours. You can command them. Or you're hungry. Here's Thomas, turn a stone into bread. That's what temptation does. The devil and his minions and the choices in life, the ways in this world, that they look shiny and flashy and perfect on the outside. But you know, I kind of liken it to the Barbie dolls. You know, Barbie dolls, you know, they all dressed up with glamorous and nice on the inside, but those dolls are plastic and they're hollow. There's nothing inside. You see, this world tries to seduce us with the glitz and the glamour, the things that appeal to us. And it seduces us into serving and worshiping other gods. Now, for Israel, that may have meant worshiping a statue or a representation of another god, another pantheon, Baal or Chemosh or Shamash or all these other weird names, you know. Even at one point, some of them worshiped a god that demanded sacrificing their children. Molech required sacrificing children. They worshiped all these different gods at some points, were tempted and seduced. Kind of like how Solomon allowed all these other gods in, the gods of his wives and his concubines, because he was seduced in some ways. We don't necessarily have statues that we worship, most of us around, but we do have our little gods. I'm sure we have some in our house. For me, sometimes that little god that distracts me and pulls me away from God is a television. Maybe the radio. Maybe our hobby has become our God to us, that pulls us away from God. Maybe a relationship pulls us away from God. Whether it be a friend or a loved one or something pulls us away. Maybe it's this thing that men carry in their back pockets most times. Of course, mine didn't have a lot of money. It has receipts in there for stuff I don't have money for. That our money, our wallets, our desires for more stuff, those pull us away. Those are our gods in American context a lot of times. And don't get me wrong, there's some people that still worship statues or they may worship another god, but most times, whatever we turn our heart over, whatever we follow, whatever we divert ourselves to, becomes our God. Because we're seduced. Choice B, way B, it looks good. Looks amazing. It's just right. But, as the passage reminds us, its ways are destruction, and its ways are a life of not living long. Now, again, I told you this is a very cut and dry, A and B, black and white type laying out of choices. Life isn't always that way. Sometimes bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people. That happens. But what I think the Lord's laying for us today is that really our actions do have consequences. And if we choose God and choose the right way, for the most part, our life isn't going to be filled with horrible consequences for our choices. But if we do choose poorly and make poor choices in life, in love and interpersonal relationships, there will be probably some bad consequences to it. In some ways, it's common sense, isn't it? I think I shared a meme on Facebook this week about that, Chick-fil-A started serving kale salad. I think it's an abomination before the Lord. That's the Lord's chicken, okay? I got kale. I got these fried chicken nuggets or this fried chicken sandwich. I got this kale. I could choose grilled, I could choose kale, or I could choose the Lord's sandwich. Right? But if I choose the Lord's fried chicken sandwich, it doesn't help with my weight, my blood pressure, my life expectancy, more than likely. But if I choose that kale salad, I might live a little longer. Man, life has consequences and choices. The thing is, some of us like to put the choices off, and put them off, and put them off, and put them off. What Moses was saying to the children of Israel, and what God is saying to us today, is that you must choose. You got to choose. As Bob Dylan once saying, you got to serve somebody. Okay? You got to serve somebody. You got to make that choice. It's now or never. And I go back to verse 15. Today, this day, right? Life and good, death and evil. I've set it before you. I'm giving you the choices. I'm showing you the options. I'm laying it before you. You've got to make a choice. It's now or never. In fact, he says, I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Therefore, choose life that you and your offspring may live. Loving the Lord your God, obeying His voice, and holding fast to Him, for He is your life and length of days, that you may dwell in the land of the Lord, swore to your fathers Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob to give them. You back up here. I call today, this day, today, you got to choose. You see, it's heaven, heaven and earth. As God is my witness, you got to choose. The world's watching. What you going to do? Are you going to be a Joshua? Or are you going to be an Adam and Eve? Let me lay that a little bit there here. You see Joshua over in Joshua chapter 24. If it is evil in your eyes to serve the Lord, choose this day whom you will serve. Whether the gods your father served in the region beyond the river, or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you will dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Joshua chose to serve God, whereas some of his people that were following him at that point chose to follow the gods of the land, the other gods. Maybe their incentive package sounded so much better, but of course it's hollow promises, right? He chose to serve the Lord. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. He chose wisely. But y'all know the story of two people that chose poorly. Adam and Eve did over in Genesis chapter 3, verse 6. And when the woman saw that the tree, that's not supposed to be had, it's that, I believe the T. Saw that the tree was good for food and that it was pleasant to the eye. Again, the devil makes things look really good, doesn't he? The way of death doesn't just look all, skull and crossbones or rotted or broken. It looks appealing. You go back to that video clip. Those cups of gold, all the jewels, it looks so good. It's pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise. She took the fruit thereof and did eat, and also gave it to her husband with her. And he did eat. Which, by the way, I've heard the joke that why do men let the women, a little hesitant, let the women choose where to eat? Because the last time they did it, Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden. That's a bad joke, and I'll go on from that. You see, they chose poorly, Adam and Eve did. They choose what looked to be good, but they choose the way of death. Over in 2 Kings chapter 18, we find that King Hezekiah has been paying tribute to Sennacherib, king of Assyria. And he's a vassal state. And Hezekiah rebels against Sargon, and his successor Sennacherib, and they stop paying the tribute. Stop paying the mob ransom, if you will, the mob dues. So Sennacherib lays siege to the land. He tells the people, at least through his messengers, this is what the king of Assyria says, make peace with me and come out to me. Choose life, not death. Do not listen to Hezekiah, for he is misleading you when he says the Lord will deliver us. I'm sure as the people are about to be possibly destroyed by this horde of an invading army, the king's given an option, choose life or choose death. I'm sure that choice is pretty obvious. Choose life. Choose King Sennacherib. But King Hezekiah was there saying, choose God. It's the right way. The invading army, swords drawn. Kind of hard to say no. It looked appealing. Most of the people listened to Hezekiah and they followed God, and God delivered them from the reign of Sennacherib. God delivered them. You see, the ways of the devil, the ways of this world, there's so much glitter. All that glitter fades. It does. Think about glitter. I almost have a functional ban of glittery items in our house because that glitter falls off, goes everywhere, and it fades, and it just gets everywhere, and it's destructive. But we must choose. The choice is before us. Here's a quote from a church father here. It's a series of Aurelius. Leave the broad way on the left, which drags you to death, and cling to the narrow path on the right, which happily leads you to life. Do not allow the wideness of the road on the left to keep you or give you pleasure. Path A or path B? One looks rough and it looks narrow. That's the good road. One looks pleasing and wide and looks like easy street. That's the bad road. You see, life is full of choices and consequences, isn't it? This is a Rubik's Cube. It's a thing that became popular in the 80s. You still buy it today. In the 1980s, a guy named Rubik came up with this magic cube. Let's make a comeback. Each side of the cube has 9 independent squares moved by an internal mechanism allowing each row of 3 squares to be turned on a horizontal or vertical axis. The object is a game to move each color square, which have been mixed up, so that each side of the cube of the square only has one color. Operating the cube teaches many lessons about the fact that choices have consequences. Each turn of the axis affects the arrangement of the colored squares on the other sides of the cube. One twist may bring the colors of one side into alignment, but the twist may lead to greater chaos and confusion on the other side. You See, we all have choices in everyday life, don't we? And those choices, including our choice to follow God or to live apart from God, have consequences. While making choices in order to obtain self-righteousness, answers, or satisfaction apart from God, may have devastating consequences for our life. Just like a Rubik's Cube, making the right choices isn't always easy. So I've got some helpers today. They're going to help me pass out the little small Rubik's Cubes. Let's see. You got the box, Jones? DJ, which box? Okay. So, Jones, you start down here at the front. DJ, you start in the back. One per family if you can. I've got 48 of them. Not enough for everybody. But these are little cubes. These are not the actual Rubik's Cubes. These are a cheap knockoff from China that I order on Amazon. I'm sorry, but that's what I can afford, okay? The originals are like $8 a piece. I love y'all, but I'm not that rich. Y'all know how much I make. But you know, you turn it and you get different colors. The object of the game is to get it back to, it's all mixed up initially, say, you just mess with it, mix it up, and try to get it all back to all the colors the same, all the same size. You know, red all together, yellow, whatever. But you have to figure out, and twist different ways and this way. The goal is to get it back to where it should be all the same color. Life has choices. We choose A or choose B. We choose God, the way of good, the way of life, the way of evil, the way of death. And our choices have consequences. Like I said, the choices aren't always easy. And the consequences aren't always easy. So my challenge to you is, take this little cube, if you get one, if you don't, that's fine. Take this little cube. It's an object lesson, okay? Play with it. Most of y'all know that your actions have consequences, but sometimes we forget. But as you take this cube, I want you to go around and just remember, whenever you see this, I must choose God or choose death. And whichever I choose has consequences. Choice A or choice B. Choosing life, choosing death. The thing is, as Moses reminds us, you must choose today, this day. Now, has everybody that wants one gotten one? If not, the helpers can. Okay, anybody else need another one? So this is my gift to you to remind you to choose God, to choose life. As musicians come and as we sing, choose life. The altar is open if you'd like to pray with me and to choose life. Maybe you've chosen death.
Please all rise for number 10, How Great Thou Art.
Lord, my God.
So I've been fidgeting with this, and I've got it all mixed up. They say that these Rubik's Cubes are a test of one's intelligence. The smarter you are, the quicker you can solve it. The way I'm looking at it right now, I'm pretty dadgum dumb because I have no idea how to figure this out. Okay, Joseph's got a little further than I have. But the thing is, I'm not worried about whether you can solve it or not. I'm not going to judge you based on how well you can solve it. But I am going to hold you accountable. Because remember, choose life or choose death today. Every day. Yes, ma'am. Some second.
God, I'm just telling church too, that we appreciate all of y'all do with that was voice. But I want to say too, that on the last day, we were asked at our pastor to do prayers. He was made to use as a prayer to all ever.
Thank you. Thank y'all for letting me be involved. Thank y'all for letting me come to the food. You know, I had eaten at Clover Station. Ray Nathan's barbecue was good. Just don't tell people how much I ate, okay? Yeah, there was quite a spread, a lot of it. And I was like, I know that person's dish. I know that person's dish. Y'all did a good job. Thank y'all. Next Sunday we'll be talking about factions in the Corinthian church. And there's a few factions in this church, but I think most of all, no matter if we disagree with somebody, we get along. And we come together for the right causes. And I think loving our fellow churchmen, especially in time of grief, is a really important thing. But again, it's that notion of choosing life or choosing death. Choosing the ways of this world, the ways of the devil, the ways of evil, or choosing God, the ways of God. Use this. Set it on your dash, sit on your counter, your nightstand, sit in your bathroom, maybe tape. I know my sister-in-law has stuff around her mirror, verses of Scripture. Tape this to your mirror if you do that, to remind you to choose God daily. Not the ways of this world, not the devil, not the evil. Choose life. Choose God. I don't care if you solve it or not. Just choose God. Okay? Let's be dismissed in prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for life's many blessings. Lord, we even thank you for the bumps in the road. The Lord, may every day, every moment, every time we have a choice to make an action, to have consequences, that we choose you and choose life. May this object lesson in our hands may remind us to choose you, God, daily. Follow you, even though life may get messy, may not seem right. Lord, may you remind us that you're with us, following us, and watching over us. Thank you so much, Lord. In your name we pray.